What is your name?
My name is Kenneth Ward. People call me Ken.
Um, when did you graduate high school?
I graduated from Henderson High School in 1969.
Um, how did you get to school?
Well, I lived in town in Westchester, and all the people who lived in town actually walked to school every day. So it was a couple-mile walk every day, and that's how we got back and forth. Unless you had a friend that had a car, and then or your parents would sometimes drop you off if they could.
Do you know if buses look any different than they do today?
You know what? School buses basically look the same as they always did. The style never changes, so they're pretty much the same uncomfortable school bus then as it is now.
How many people graduated with you?
We had the largest class in 1969. We had over 900 people graduated from our class in 1969 at Henderson. And the reason why, because there wasn't 3 high schools. It was just 1 high school. East wasn't there, and Ruston wasn't there. So it was just 1 high school, so our classes were huge.
What grades were in elementary school?
It went to 6th grade. It's a little different then than it is now. You went from kindergarten to 6th grade, and then the middle school was from 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then the high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th.
How was your school experience different than it was today, or is today?
Well, there was a lot less things to do back in our days as far as computers, stuff like that. It was just the basic schoolwork in reading, writing, arithmetic, geometry, stuff like that, over a course of our time. And we didn't have the use of any high-tech stuff. But I think it was a lot more social back in those days than it is now. And what I mean by that is that you interacted with your peers a lot more than you do now. It's more closer, and you found different things to entertain yourself. You created more games and little silly things you do now. But basically, kids are kids, and I haven't seen too much different in the kid today as there is yesterday.
Were the schools segregated?
Fortunately for me, I have an older sister, and she went to a segregated school, which was Gay Street School in Westchester. Gay Street School is where all the minority kids went in Westchester. Fortunately, when I went to school, schools were integrated. I went to High Street School in Westchester, and I went to grade school. I was born in 1951, so I went to grade school in about 1957. And back in those days, they got the schools together and they desegregated when I got to school.
Did you go on field trips?
Yeah, we went on field trips, pretty much like you do today. We went to Washington D.C. We went to Philadelphia. Different little. The Valley Forge was a big field trip that they used, and real interesting stuff like that.
Did you participate in any after-school activities?
I was an athlete. I played football. That was my main sport. I played a little bit baseball, and I was on the wrestling team. So, and I was in band until the 9th grade. I played the drums, and then I kind of lost interest in that because of sports.
Do you remember any of your numbers from sports?
I always wear number 75 for a football jersey, but I don't know any other.
Was there any bullying when you went to school? Like different than today?
Yes. Matter of fact, bullying, we didn't even recognize it as bullying. It was, it was just the strong survive. There wasn't a lot of bullying rules or anything like that. You just had to take care of yourself. Back when I grew up, there was large families. Everybody had large families, you know, maybe 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6, 7 kids in a family. I grew up where I lived on a block where there's a lot of large families, but it was just my sister and I. So I had to learn to take care of myself real fast because, you know, those large families, if you got into one with one, you got into them with the whole family, you know. So, you know, you had to learn how to handle yourself and diffuse it sometimes, and not just get people off your back so they don't do it again. Not advocating violence, but I'm just saying.
Thank you for your
Now,
time.
what was
That,
most memorable experience?
oh yeah. What was your most memorable experience?
I spent time in the Air Force. I spent 6 years of my life in the Air Force. And I remember I just came back from Southeast Asia, and I was at Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico, and I was sitting in the chow hall eating lunch. And a bunch of Boy Scouts came in from, there's what's that big Boy Scout camp in New Mexico? There's a big Boy Scout camp, and a bunch of Boy Scout kids came in, and they were from Westchester. And I was so happy, I was looking at Westchester, you know, and I got to talk to some people there who knew my parents and everything, and it just made me feel good that I saw somebody from home because I hadn't been home in a couple of years. And that was a real memorable experience. And when I did get out of the military, I went and visited some of the kids and stuff like that. That was cool. Yeah.
Well, now, thank you for your time.
You're welcome,
That
Skylar.
concludes the
Thank
interview.
you. All right. Good job.